The FanDuel Racing YouTube channel has everything you need for the road to the 2026 Kentucky Derby. Watch every can't-miss race replay, get contender updates, and expert analysis, and go behind the scenes with exclusive features. Make sure you subscribe to get the best racing content all year long. From coast to coast and across the globe, FanDuel Racing on YouTube has you covered.
As we bring you back to the FanDuel TV studios, that is a wrap yesterday on February. Obviously, March 1st today. We have a Derby prep later on, which we'll touch on in just a few moments in the Rebel Stakes. But what did February look like as far as the road to the Kentucky Derby presented by Spendthrift Farm? We started at Aqueduct with a Grade 3 Withers. Talk to Me Jimmy gets the victory there. Silent Tactic won the Grade 3 Southwest Stakes. He'll be looking to double up in those graded stakes races as far as the Derby Trail is concerned later today in the Rebel Stakes. Plutarch, he's off the Derby Trail. That was announced earlier this week with body soreness. Tampa Bay Downs Renegade Paladin, who is largely everyone's top selection as far as the Derby as it stands right now. We expect to see him in the Toyota Bluegrass. And then moving further on down the line, Great White showing a lot of grit in the John Battaglia for John Ennis. Over in Japan, we saw Lucky Kid take the Hyacinth. Blanc de Blanc, the filly, won at Dundalk in the Patent. That as far as the European road to the Kentucky Derby. Yesterday, Commandment, very impressive in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. We'll team up with the team down in Hot Springs in just a moment. But as we started at Aqueduct, we ended at Aqueduct with Iron Honor and his victory in the Grade 3 Gotham. This is a horse trained by Chad Brown, who came in with just one race under his belt. It was a victory, stretching out to the one-turn mile in the Gotham Stakes. He had some work to do because Crown the Buckeye, the seasoned Ohio bred, dug in for Mike Maker, put together a strong performance on the cutback in distance, but Iron Honor is finally able to overtake this race, and by doing so, picks up 50 Kentucky Derby points by way of this victory in the Grade 3 Gotham Stakes. He's a son of Nyquist, so onward and upward for a colt that is 2 for 2, taking that big step forward. And I think that, honestly, when you're running against a horse that had so much more race experience like Crown the Buckeye had coming into the Gotham, that was a very impressive performance. But yesterday at Gulfstream Park, the Fountain of Youth absolutely delivered. Matt Bernier, Caton Bradar joined me here on FanDuel TV to discuss. And Matt and Caton, it was a heck of a throwdown between a seasoned horse and a lightly seasoned horse.
Yeah, Scott, it certainly was. And Caton, I feel like Fountain of Youth Day, Larry Colmus has always said it's his favorite day. It typically has the biggest crowd, and typically we see kind of the biggest stars. And I think this year's Fountain of Youth Day delivered in spades.
Yeah, what I think it did, as much as anything, is added some legitimate new players to the playing field as far as the Derby contenders are concerned. Very impressive run from such a lightly raced horse in Chief Wannabe, who kind of vaults up, in my opinion. I was skeptical going into it about whether or not he belonged with the top contenders, but he sure rose to the occasion. And then the winner did exactly what he was supposed to do and more.
It was a giant day, top to bottom. Let's take a look at all the stakes winners that we saw on Fountain of Youth Saturday. Starting early on in the Colonel Liam, that was race number 3 on a 14-race program. Vossi continues to get better and better. Tiz Dashing with a blowout performance in the Canadian turf. Lion Lake, an up-and-coming 3-year-old filly. She gets the job done, and Here Comes the Bride. I'm going to skip over the Gulfstream Mile for a moment because we'll circle back to that. Just Basking with the upset in the very one. She Be Smooth, very impressive. She gets Oaks points, winning the Devona Dale. Lush Lips gets back to the winner's circle in her 4-year-old debut. Grand Sonata, the old war horse for Todd Pletcher, finally back to the winner's circle for the first time since the end of 2024. And then Commandment wraps things up in the Coolmore Fountain of Youth. We'll talk about Commandment in a moment, but Caton, I think, as impressive as the 3-year-olds were, the star of the day was Knightsbridge, visually and then on the clock. When you take a look and you find out that he earned a 112 Buyer's speed figure, he never got out of first gear.
Well, you know, it was interesting because he sat back off the pace setter, and it was as if Junior was doing everything he could possibly do to get him to sit back, and when he could do no more, he turned him loose. And the explosive turn of foot that this horse has, it just belies how fast he's going. At the end, it doesn't look like he's going out of a gallop, and yet the time tells it all. This is a legitimate racehorse who I think has found his niche with these types of races. And I am so excited to see what he does next. I know Bill Mott has talked about maybe one more race en route to the Cigar Mile, but that is a race that he's really had targeted for quite a while. If you could take future wagers, I think a lot of people would be betting on him for the Cigar Mile.
Oh, I tell you what, given the jockey, the trainer, and the colors that they're wearing in Godolphin blue, kind of hard not to draw comparisons to Cody's Wish and what he was capable at with those mile distances. Knightsbridge was the star, but the main event of the day was the Coolmore Fountain of Youth. And we got a proper showdown between Commandment and we saw the up-and-comer in Chief Wallaby. I think Chief Wallaby acquitted himself very well given the light seasoning that he had that Scotty mentioned when he threw to us. On the outside, you see him. Looks like he's going to get there, but up the wood comes Commandment, the more seasoned runner, and it seems like he's only getting better with more racing.
Now, what's very interesting is that the Gulfstream Park track has, of late, been playing toward horses on the outside versus the inside. Everyone has mentioned that the inside seems to be a little bit more taxing, a tougher place to win from. And yet, it seemed as if when it rained earlier in the day, it changed, and horses ran well on the inside. However, I think that only flatters the performance of the runner-up in these circumstances. The one thing about Commandment, though, that I was impressed with is the fact that he seems to do his very best running and show more excitement, more life, more turn of foot when he is in a dogfight. And that's going to be an important ingredient as the distances get longer and as the stakes get higher. In races like the Kentucky Derby, you really want a horse who loves a fight.
A one-on-one Beyer speed figure in the Fountain of Youth arguably puts Commandment at the top of the list as far as Derby contenders are concerned. For more on Commandment, let's check in with Joaquin Jaime.
Yeah, guys, just a quick follow-up on our Fountain of Youth winner, Commandment. I spoke to trainer Brad Cox earlier this morning, and he told me after the Fountain of Youth, Commandment shipped back to Payson Park, and he said he cooled out great yesterday evening. Now, as far as his schedule and what the next couple days look like for Commandment, he said he's just going to have some easy walk days there at Payson. He said as soon as he hits the track, his first day back is just going to be an easy jog. And right now, Brad's ballparking that his first work back on the tab is probably going to be somewhere around the 13th or 14th. Now, as far as his next start, guys, Brad Cox told me that right now, Plan A is looking like it's going to be the Florida Derby, and that is coming up on March 28th. But so far, all is good. All good news to report on our Fountain of Youth winner, Commandment, the day after the race.
Joaquin, thank you. So possibly a showdown coming up in the Florida Derby. You may have Commandment. You may have Chief Wallaby. We know Nearly is waiting in the wings here for Todd Pletcher. He was the winner of the Holy Bull. If the three of them show up and nobody else shows up, it's going to be a spectacular race, but who knows who else will show up here at the end of March in the big one, the final graded stakes race of the championship meeting as far as the three-year-olds are concerned, that being the Grade 1 Florida Derby. 100 points will be awarded to the winner of that race. Scott Hazelton later on this afternoon at Oaklawn Park. 50 points will be awarded to the winner of the Rebel.
Yeah, and it's a big contentious field for $1 million down in Hot Springs, Arkansas, a race that trainer Bob Baffert has won 8 times in the past. He seeks his 9th this afternoon with Litmus Test, who's the second choice on the morning line behind Blackout Time, the 3-year-old who we haven't seen race since the age of 2 for Kenny McPeak. He was last seen finishing second in the Grade 1 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity out at Keeneland Racecourse. So that's later on this afternoon. 50 points will be awarded to the winner in the Rebel Stakes as we're going to take a look at that field here as it will go underway at 6:23 Eastern Time, 3:23 Pacific. Bravaro, he ran yesterday in the Fountain of Youth. That puts Litmus Test down on the inside for trainer Bob Baffert. He has run in 3 Grade 1 races. Litmus Test, his most recent start was a victory in the Los Al Futurity in December. Blackout Time, his first start at 3, as I mentioned, on the heels of his runner-up finish behind the 2-year-old champion Ted Noffey. And then Silent Tactic, the number 7 horse. He is looking to win the Southwest and the Rebel Stakes. He's the 3rd choice on the morning line at 9-2. Here's Andy for more on the Mark Casse Charge Silent Tactic.
Well, Silent Tactic absolutely romped for Mark Casse and his team in the Southwest, so really looking forward to see him come into the Rebel. But this is a horse who's going to get better with time. He's by Tacitus, obviously a son of Tappet, and as we know, sons of Tappet kind of like to keep going and moving forward and learning. They learn with progress. And I do think that's the case with Silent Tactic. When he first ran in the Smarty Jones, this horse was still pretty babyish. I remember him quite carrying a lot of baby fat, etc., and he needed that race and that experience. He came into the Southwest a much different horse, a much mature horse, and the way he galloped out was quite impressive as well. But I do think he's coming into the Rebel in great form, and like I said, this is a horse who's going to improve and get better with time and experience.
Well, Andy, I think he's going to have to improve, and that's the case every step of the way on this road to the Derby presented by Spendthrift Farm. It gets harder as the road goes further. And as far as Southwest Stakes winners being able to win the Rebel Stakes in their next start, here's a look at the list. Can Silent Tactic do it? Obviously, he's the only one that can here in 2026, being the Southwest Stakes winner. The last horse to do it all the way back in 2012, 14 years ago, was Secret Circle. Lawyer Ron did it. Of course, the great Smarty Jones, the Hall of Famer, did it back in 2004. So make sure you stay with us throughout the entire afternoon. Big day of racing at Oaklawn Park. As we go to Christina for more on why, if you're playing the Rebel Stakes or any Derby prep, FanDuel Racing is the place to do it.
We are on the road to the Kentucky Derby, and with the prep races underway, we've kicked things off earlier than ever in the FanDuel Racing app. Now through April 11th, we're rolling out an enhanced $20 money-back special on all domestic prep races as well as the UAE Derby. Here's how it works. Step 1 is to opt in the FanDuel Racing app. Then place your bet. If your horse just misses, finishing second in races with at least 5 runners, or second or third in races with 8 or more, you'll get your money back up to $20. It's that easy. And this year, we're adding a little extra motivation to keep playing the preps. If you opt in and placed at least a $10 wager on 10 or more of those prep races, you'll score a $50 deposit match bonus available during Derby Week. Bet along the trail and get rewarded when the roses are on the line, and it matters most in the FanDuel Racing app.
Yeah, FanDuel Racing, your place to play the preps, the place to play all horse racing, but get that $20 back if your horse finishes second or third on Derby preps. And of course, that main one coming today, the Rebel Stakes on the first day of March here in 2026.